Good afternoon. Tuesday, August 20th, 2024, here in Sarasota, Florida. That's the Gregorian matrix date. The date on the 13 moon galactic Dreamspell calendar is magnetic 26. Today, video 29 out of 30 in the Touching the Soul through the Heart, Body, and Mind series. All right, this is an important one for me to get into these 30 videos because I definitely have a lot more to say, a lot more to share, a lot more to weave together well beyond the conclusion of this little series. And I already know the next wave of how I'm going to bridge from this series to the next exercise. They will be related, but they will also be able to each stand on their own. However, this one it's a high level concept word that we're all very familiar with, that of the word and what it means to help, to help, to help another, to help a group, to help a situation. What does it mean to help? This word that we all have heard, we all use, we all know and think we know what it means. But in my personal experience, since my spiritual awakening now almost 14 years ago, which is freaking nuts, I have found that year by year, and now it's more like month by month, the words that we use in the English language for me are becoming less and less useful. Because one, it's an understanding that, as Eckhart Tolle says, words are just pointers. They're just pointers. Two, words are what we've come together as humans in this realm to agree upon in order to make sense. Like in these human bodies and the way that we work, language and words and definitions, we've got to have some way to filter out all of this information coming to us in all of these different ways. And words and obviously agreed upon definitions allow us to do that. But nothing inherently has meaning. We as humans give that meaning, and it comes through words and thus definitions. Now, in recent years, especially, man, oh man, especially if you look at, you don't have to go very far to look at how convoluted we're making things that I can't even believe are discussions, right? Like with all of the, and I don't intend for this to be a political statement in any way, shape, or form. I am not political, but the whole, in the news of late in terms of all this gender talk, I certainly never would have imagined that there would be discussion on, what it is to be a female and to be a male and how we define that. So it goes to show if you can rise above this, the very triggering, potentially triggering aspect of that nuanced example and rise to the higher level of what it indicates, it's that words. Listen, it's all malleable. We all get to make up what we want to agree to define something as. And as I started to say, I have just found that there are almost vibrations of definitions of the way that you look at a word and what aspect of the definition you focus upon. And in the English language, we have many words that have multiple meanings. We have words that change their meanings based on the context and based on the pronunciation of them, what they mean and how they're in a lot of cases with those words. And forgive me, I don't remember all the proper grammatical names for these words. When they sound exactly the same, but they're spelled slightly differently. It's all to say that language is the written word is very powerful, and agreed upon definitions are very powerful. And when we think we're using a word in a certain context, if the other person on the other side isn't receiving the word in that same context, well, then you've got a lot of room for miscommunication. And I find that there is more and more room for miscommunication these days than certainly 10, 15, 20 years ago. This word and this concept of help, very, very nuanced in what I have come to look at it and define it from. Help in and a lot of times you hear me suggest mainstream world versus, kind of paving your own path, or a more unique to each individual world. Old paradigm versus sort of the new paradigm. Old systems, taking and using things of the old to bridge to something new. Eckhart Tolle wrote of it in A New Earth. So he uses sort of the term a new earth, a new version of Earth. So in sort of the old paradigm, and the way that it seemed to me that help when, and again, it depends on what the person providing the help is what their underlying motivations and energies are. But I have found that, if I am somebody that needs help, and this is the entity or person that's giving help, they get, especially if it's in the form of money, if it's in the form of anything, there's very little help that doesn't have strings attached. Let's put it that way. There's very little help that doesn't have strings attached. If it comes in form of the money, the people with the money are like, hey, there's a reason you don't have your own money. You need my money. Then you got to trust the way that I'm going to tell you to spend that money. Or you can only spend this money that I'm going to give to you to help in the ways that I deem proper. And none of that, and again, all of this is so tricky and nuanced, because again, none of it can be taken at surface layer and blanketed across to have the same meaning for every situation. What I'm suggesting is to go deeper and take the time to examine what the underlying motivations are on both sides of any equation. Okay? In the situation of help, the kind of help that I am looking to be a conduit of through myself and my own energy, and through the greater energy of my company, the kind of help, first and foremost, I like the phrase, for those of the Christian faith, I would often hear my Christian friends say, God helps those who help themselves. I'm a very big believer in that as well. Very few situations am I interested in giving a blind handout. Helping yourself is essential, and demonstrating that you are helping yourself is something that I'm going to require in terms of what I contribute my energy to and my resources to, and anything that is coming through me or my company. Helping those who are already helping themselves. But the big difference is, I believe in giving people first, it's in situations asking others, how can I help you? Like, let them tell you what sort of help that they need, rather than you assuming that what's best for somebody else. I think it's a very slippery slope when we set up society in the way that a good chunk of our society, I personally feel, is set up in, is where it's, we're doing a lot of assuming and speaking and giving voice to others when that's not our business. We can't presume. And a lot of the others in this example are giving their power away for somebody else to speak for them. So it's become a very convoluted, confusing, chaotic world when there's good intentions and when the heart is genuinely there. And I would love to see us take these actions prior to, and not only isolated to, when there's tragedy, when there's a hurricane like Debbie coming through here in Sarasota, where 2 neighborhoods in particular were destroyed. Okay, obviously those people need help, and that's an isolated incident. When disease happens and people get sick, I've often had this thought of many, many, many times in my situation, and sorry, tangent back, and I'm going to connect it with my most recent videos, talking a lot about sort of the history of the strained relationship I've had with my family, immediate and extended. I've often thought that if I was ever diagnosed with something, then you would see my family come through. And I remember, I'm serious, like, this thought dominated a lot. And because I couldn't understand, and I still can't claim that I understand why the help, why are we so conditioned to only give help in tragedy times or times of, when it's like grasping at the last moments of trying to, like in the case of serious diseases, oh, now your family's all around to help and spend time with you as you're on your deathbed. Well, great, but what about when I was living? And why aren't we helping each other more to live and to thrive rather than constantly giving help when it's dire? Again, remember, tagline, it's all about the energy. So the dynamic of the exchange, it just seems to me that there's a lot of perpetuating at these, these lower, just allowing us all to barely survive rather than thriving. I am interested in bridging to a world where more people are thriving as opposed to helping one another continue to barely survive. And so that in that example, I'm like, they would come if I was on my deathbed, if I got stage 4 cancer or whatever else, then you would see my family offer to give all their money to all these things that I don't even know that I would get treatment in a situation like that, to be honest. And I'd be quite uncomfortable receiving help in that situation. You want to help me when I'm facing death, but you don't want to help me when I'm trying to live and thrive? It doesn't make sense to me. And again, I'm not trying to attack anybody's way of trying to help. I'm not. That's not the intention. The intention is just to really invite a deeper analysis of what these exchanges are. Another thing that doesn't make sense to me, I've got somebody current in my life still that is, well, it's my ex, okay? And the fact that I'm still trying to be friends with him is a daily struggle. It really is. Not quite daily, almost a daily struggle. It's a weekly struggle with him, a weekly struggle. And he has been one of my greatest, if not the greatest teacher of my life. So trust me when I say, like I'm choosing to keep him in my life, and I am continuing to learn and grow through the challenge that it is to have this man in my life. But he's very interesting in the way and what he provides as help, because 100% of the time he's providing help that he thinks it's the help I need, and quite almost honestly, almost across the board, it's never ever ever the help that I would. No, man, I don't need that. So I don't know where you're coming from, but you might think that that's helping. From your perspective, that might be helping, but that's not the kind of help that I need. I don't need that help from you. Like, I don't need that. How about asking me, hey, is there anything I can do that you really need for help? And it's amazing to me how many times I've had the opportunities now to really dive into this world, this word help. And as a correlation to that, being really cognizant of the kind of help I want to be a part of going forward. Because again, there is only so much help you can provide to another. We each have to thread our own needle, is what I say. We each have to learn our own license. You cannot learn somebody else's lessons for them. You cannot thread their needle for them. We all are here to learn our own lessons and to thread our own needle. But I absolutely believe we are here to help one another. We absolutely are. But I'm not a big fan of the kind of help that is contingent on, I'll help you, but what do I get out of it? Right? I'll help you, but what am I getting out of it? It's been one of the hardest lessons for me because, and I think with women, and this isn't to say all women across the board, not at all, but the truly divine feminine energy that is present in women and men, whether or not it's being lived, it's present in all of us. Divine feminine, divine masculine, earthbound wounded masculine, earthbound wounded feminine. All 4 of those are within all of us, and they're constantly being exchanged out in the world and reflected and projected. But the true divine feminine energy is the true unconditional help with no strings attached, where you're not looking and waiting for that to sort of be paid back to you in some way, or what are you going to do for me first, then I'll help you. That's another way of looking and examining, and an opportunity to go further into that aspect. And I already touched upon the money one. That's a big one, right? You take somebody else's money, it's almost damn near impossible to find somebody that's going to give you money and let you do with that money what you think is best, right? Where that is the bank, I suppose, credit cards, right? The credit cards are what allowed me to do what I thought was best. And I am grateful for that every minute of every day, that the credit cards allowed me to launch this entire vision, because I wasn't going to obtain that money in any other way. So it's just a way of examining, because it's something that I think is a key part of our society, both old and the new version, is helping one another. I don't think we came down here in human form to live in isolation. I very much believe that we are here to help one another. But I do believe, like with everything, if you don't understand really the foundation upon which the exchange is happening, what you're intending to happen could actually be participating in the exact opposite result if you don't take the time to examine what is it that's really going on, right? That's why I say all the time, people that are taken advantage of with religions, I think it's one of the greatest sins in the whole world to take people's honest attempts to connect to something bigger, and to do good, and then to bastardize that, or to use it to manipulate, or to use it for political gain, or to use it for any other of the sick reasons that we have seen religion be used. I think it's one of the darkest actions of evil that I know exists on this planet and in this realm. um, when people the political process, I think there's a plenty of people that are, seem to believe that change is going to happen, despite the fact that the process itself demonstrates to us how corrupt it is, and the conflict of interest that's involved at the foundation of it all. It's clearly not what it was when it was first created. And so to think that your actions, and those that are giving their energy and giving their time of something, thinking that it's one thing and refusing to examine what it really is, then what you're trying to contribute, what you end up contributing to, could in some cases be the exact opposite of what you think you're contributing to. And so, yeah, just examining help and what that word means, especially because I am a big proponent of a pay it forward society, of a society, again, where you're not looking to have returns, favors returned, or what are you going to do for me before I help you. It's like you understand, and I believe this comes when we truly get to what degree we are connected to everyone. And that, like when you really understand that your neighbor, like that we are all connected, and that what you do unto your neighbor is what you do unto yourself. I don't know if we really understood that we would act in the ways that we do, that are so damaging to one another. But I'm a big proponent of paying it forward. I'm a big proponent of providing assistance, but more through opportunities, and through overt, just direct communication and respect, not just looking at somebody who needs help as somebody that's less than, because that's another energy dynamic that, from my observation and experience, seems to dominate. That we think that the ones that need help are somehow less than, or weaker, or just less than, right? And that's not the case. I certainly don't I try not to treat others like that. Now, I don't believe we're all created equal. We're not created equal in our skill sets, in our natural gifts, in our natural tendencies, and in what our purposes are. We're not created equally in that sense, but we all deserve equal opportunities. We deserve to have opportunities. But I do have a caveat for that. You got to be out there without the expectation, and taking accountability and responsibility for your life, and doing all that you can to help yourself, and to better yourself, and to rely upon yourself. And I think that combination, with assistance, with a more equitable respect of one another, looks like a very different world than some of the things that dominate our world at present. So, again, not the most eloquent, didn't weave it all together in as quite a clean a way as I thought. had hoped, but I'm just trying to introduce throughout these 30 videos. There's a lot of reasons, a lot of layers, as with everything with me, to the purpose of the whole series. But one of the high level things, high level intentions, is to introduce a lot of high level ideas, concepts, words that sort of represent what I'm intending to be and do in my life as a human being, first and foremost, and then in my world existing as my own company and as a business, and what I intend to do individually in my business and collaboratively with others, all with the ultimate goal, dream, intention of building and being part of co-creating a world based in love, cooperation, and thriving and abundance, as opposed to fear, competition, barely surviving, and lack. Okay, so that's today's video. Tomorrow we'll wrap up with 30 of 30, and then I'll probably do a follow-up kind of share video of the whole series all on its own before heading out of town to Chicago on Thursday. Okay, thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your day wherever you are.